This is layer 3, Closer. Closer is a creature appearing in Silent Hill 3. Excluding Heather Mason's dream sequence, this is the first type of monster she encounters. It is seen in a clothing store as it feeds on a woman's corpse. Heather shoots it to death as it approaches her. The Closer is a tall, menacing creature with thick, all-encompassing arms. Some sections of the creature's arms seem to be stitched together and bandaged up. The Closer's lips rotate and twitch relentlessly, emanating a wet sound. Two sharp protrusions are held inside the creature's arms and can be extended outwards much like one uncurls a finger. When attacking, they extend one of these blades and thrust it forward rather sluggishly. In the Order's chapel, cloisters become infested with animated dark globs moving along their skin, and they are also notably faster. They seem to have a green tinge. The cloister shares similar characteristics of the mandarin. According to Masahiro, the reason they look similar is because the mandarin was one of the most underrated monsters of Silent Hill 2. His intentions by them both having similar designs was to imply that their appearance was not just dependent on the person, but that the power of Silent Hill also had some input on the design of the monsters. According to Lost Memories, Silent Hill Chronicle, its name is derived from its ability to obstruct a path with its gargantuan proportions. Doublehead. Doubleheads are canine monsters in Silent Hill 3 that usually appear in groups of 2 or 4 when attacking Heather Mason upon sight. They also appear in Silent Hill the Arcade and Silent Hill Book of Memories. From the jawline, their heads are split vertically down the middle, with their tongue often hanging lazily between the split halves. Each side of the head seems to function independently, as if they are two dogs instead of just one. They are bandaged and bloody flesh and appear to be horribly burned. One notable aspect is their eyes. The doublehead's right eye is red and has a visible pupil. Its left eye appears gray or blue and lacks a visible pupil, possibly meaning that it is blind in its left eye. When they are attacked by Heather, they sometimes yelp twice instead of once for each head. The doubleheads are a manifestation of Heather's subconscious, greatly influenced by the image of Elisa Gillespie's after she was burned during the ritual to impregnate her with God. They appear with burn scars, wrapped in bandages, and are the first monsters encountered in Silent Hill 3. Creature designer Masahiro explained that they placed the creature at the start of the game to convey the protagonist entering a hellish world. The split jaw design was a homage to Cerberus of Greek mythology, and it was intended to seem as though the double heads are the watchdogs of hell. The creature mirrors the groaners and split-head monsters manifested from Elisa's nightmare from the original game. It is evocative of her strong dislike for dogs. Glutton. The Glutton is a monster found in Silent Hill 3. While it is a major obstacle in Heather's escape from the otherworld Hilltop Center, it doesn't pose a legitimate threat to her. The Glutton resembles a tall monster encased in decaying skin, trapped within a cylindrical cage that surrounds its entire body. The bottom ring of the cage is adorned with an array of sharp spikes akin to stalagmites, while the top is draped with what appears to be shrouds of the monster's skin, which may act as a form of tentacles. Features similar to feet can be seen between the spiked prongs, giving the impression that the glutton is suspended within its cage. The spiked prongs are similar to those in the scenery of the battle with God. The glutton possesses two mouths that convulse and squirm from its chest and head. Although initially believed to be eyes, these are confirmed to be mouths. The Tufui Ego Eris fairy tale shows a picture of a knight's foot extending from the glutton's mouth as he is devoured whole. Around the glutton's upper head is what appears to be a metal ring. This ring could possibly be mirroring a halo, perhaps alluding to Claudia Wolf's perspective that the monsters are holy figures by the order's god. From the fairy tale, the glutton is portrayed as a formidable foe. This would be expected given the monster's somewhat aggressive nature and the radius of emission of static. But the glutton appears to show no interest whatsoever in attacking Heather. According to Lost Memories Silent Hill Chronicle, the creature's form is manifested by the other world. The glutton's name is attributed to the creature in the story Tufui Ego Eris, which gobbled up knights and villagers who attempted to leave their village. While the creature makes no hostile actions, it nonetheless renders the exit inaccessible to Heather. The fairy tale speaks of a priestess that was once killed, resurrected from compassion, and returns to defeat the monster. Insane Cancer. Insane Cancer is an enormous, obese, and monstrous humanoid. These abominations possessing hulking strength appear in Silent Hill 3. Heather first encounters one sleeping in Hazel Street Station after she picks up a shotgun in an abandoned train car on platform 2. They also appear occasionally in Silent Hill the Arcade and Silent Hill Book of Memories. They explode after they are defeated in the latter, making them lethal even in death. Insane cancers are also seen in the comics Dying Inside, Painted Black, and Hunger. The name insane cancer is derived from its outward appearance being reminiscent of a cancerous mass. They are also completely covered in fatty, bulbous flesh with pus-like excretions oozing from open sores. Their heads aren't very distinct, being small bulbs with a wound-like opening as their only feature. The Book of Lost Memories claims it represents a cancer running wild, and its name stems from its cancerous-like appearance as we talked about. Insane cancer may also bear similarities to Silent Hill's very corruption, like an evil cancer spreading throughout the world. They can also illustrate Elisa Gillespie's re-emergent feelings about herself that she is a cancer that won't stay dead. These feelings are also reflected in the message left behind by the memory of Elisa. Their mimicry of dying, when in reality they are regenerating, may be related to Elisa's hospitalization. To everyone besides her mother, Lisa Garland, and Michael Kaufman, she was dead, when actually she was alive in hospital but wanted to die, but was unable to due to Dahlia's incantation and the god in her uterus protecting its mother's host body. There is a running theme of maternity and femininity in Silent Hill 3, and its monsters due to the central conflict of the game centering on impregnation, and the cult attempts to force Heather to birth their god. The insane cancer might be a manifestation of the fetal god in Heather's uterus, slowly growing like a disease and coming back after seemingly dying. This is supported by the science of how cancer operates. It is the uncontrollable growth of cells which can be seen as synonymous in the game as the development of God within Heather, which the Order believes is inevitable. The insane cancer could also represent elements of body horror associated with pregnancy, as some mothers fear they will become obese or overweight, bloated, disgusting, and generally unattractive during pregnancy. Their sheer hulking appearance might be similar to a heavily pregnant mother due to give birth soon. Leonard Wolf. Leonard Wolf was the abusive father of Claudia Wolf and a former member of the Order. Leonard appears almost reptilian in nature, with a coat of sickly yellowed skin covering him. much like a victim of drowning. His face is mutated and marred beyond recognition, only having a series of holes where his face should be. He has what appears to be black tongues or protrusions in some of the holes. His hands, his most prominent feature, are a pair of huge blade-like bone growths that he uses to swipe at Heather. He appears to be amphibious as he can last almost indefinitely underwater. His human appearance remains unknown. It's not clear what Leonard's condition is. He may be a normal human who Heather sees as a monster. This is reinforced by the fact that his voice sounds entirely normal despite his form. He also emits animal-like grunting at the same time, which doesn't sound like it belongs to the person talking. Another theory is that he was corrupted by his own madness and the other world, and so became a monster representing his abusive nature towards Claudia. Memory of Elisa. The memory of Elisa is a boss in Silent Hill 3, as well as having her likeness appear in Silent Hill Revelation. Heather encounters her in the other world's lakeside amusement park where combat ensues. She attacks Heather on the carousel after Claudia Wolf confirms that God is currently in Heather's uterus, feeding off her hatred. The memory of Elisa appears as a bloody, ragged doppelganger of Heather, except for Elisa Gillespie's dark, disheveled hair. Her face and skin are deceased, and the side of her cheek and forehead appear to have its flesh torn off as if melted, a probable reference to Elisa's burning. Much of her burned and charred skin is peeled off in strips of gored flesh. Her clothes are dirty, bloody, and covered in soot. Her vest is brown instead of Heather's white. Her miniskirt is gray instead of Heather's green. And her boots are almost black instead of brown. Her turtleneck sweater is black instead of orange. Her movements are twitchy, erratic, and she limps towards Heather. The memory of Elisa is the imprint of Elisa left in the other world by her powers and mind. It is a manifestation of Elisa's mind that wants, above all else, to stop God's birth, and to spare the world from the event should it occur, reasoning that a relatively quick death was preferable to the alternate fate. In the center of the carousel is a human figure being burned by fire, symbolic of Elisa's immolation 24 years ago, as well as her endless torment. Upon dying, she leaves a message printed in blood on the carousel floor. The message left by the memory of Elisa reveals her intention to free herself from the suffering she must endure as the mother of God. It would be better for myself to die. After all, it's nothing to be afraid of. That child, that demon, when I think of the endless pain it will bring when it is birthed, I decided that instead of the suffering and cruelty I endured in that sick room, that I would like to bestow a more gentle and peaceful death on myself. Why do I resist? I never thought of myself as such a fool. However, after reading the above message, Heather comments that she does not think in the same way as Elisa, and that she is going to confront her fate, no matter how gruesome they may be. Elisa, I guess it's kind of strange for me to call you that, since you are me. But you know what? You and I don't think alike, after all. And it's not that I don't remember that sick room either. The battle also seems to symbolize Heather/Elisa considering Sudoku. The memory of Elisa representing the pain, dark emotions, and suffering that make Elisa think it would be better for her to die, and her attempt to kill Heather are those dark emotions trying to overwhelm Heather. But her fighting back against the memory of Elisa represents her determination to keep going and face what will come instead of choosing death. Missionary. The missionary is a major boss from Silent Hill 3. He appears on the roof of Heather's apartment, having murdered her father not long before in order to enrage her. After a brief and heated conversation, Claudia Wolf commands him to attack Heather. The Order's church, seen near the end of the game, is home to a few similar beings called Scrapers. The Book of Lost Memories labels Scrapers as different entities, so they are not the same as the missionary, making him unique. He's a tall humanoid monster that seems to be able to comprehend orders. He wears a brown sack over his head and a noose around his neck. The beast wears a set of robes, much like a surgeon's smock, and has bicep-length rubber gloves stained in blood. Like many other monsters in the game, he is constantly twitching. His weapons of choice are two tonfa-like objects with long blades jutting from the handle. On closer inspection of the boss, he has a human face with an expression of pain. The most notable features are his mouth and nose, leaving his eyes covered and possibly blind. What really sets this fiend apart from other monsters is its human, if rotting and warped body paired with the intelligence to understand and comply to a direct order. Claudia explains that she commanded it to kill Harry. The missionary is a member of the order that has become monstrous due to Claudia's power. In Heather's eyes, the appearance he takes is that of a monster. The word missionary refers to a person sent on a religious mission to persuade and convert another person to subscribe to their belief, which is precisely what Claudia is trying to do with Heather. There is a running theme of maternity and femininity in Silent Hill 3 and its monsters due to the central conflict of the game centering on impregnation and the cult attempts to force Heather to birth their god. The combination of the missionary's title, his clothing, and his weapons may be seen as a sign of dilation and curettage, which is the dilation of a cervix and surgical extraction of part of the lining of the uterus and or contents of the uterus by curettage, scraping, and scooping. It is an often used method of first trimester miscarriage or abortion. Missionary here meaning one who killed Harry and of a doctor sent to eliminate an unborn fetus. Rubber gloves, a mask, and a smock being reminiscent of surgical attire, and the long sharp weapons being exaggerated imagery of abortion tools. Alternatively, his bladed implements could parallel a phallic object or other instrument that is essential to sexual intercourse. Numbody. Numbody is a monster from Silent Hill 3. They also appear in Silent Hill the arcade and the comics Dying Inside and Hunger. That sounds like me. I'm dying inside and I'm hungry. Numbodies are relatively featureless, bipedal creatures that appear in various sizes. They waddle and hop side to side. They represent tadpole-like creatures covered in purplish pale skin which splits and cracks constantly. They consist of only two legs, which end in deformed toe-like digits. From their backs protrude two triangular growths of presumably no real purpose. Their heads only have a single hole in it, from which they presumably see and nothing else. According to Lost Memories, Silent Hill Chronicle, the name Numb Bodies derives from the creature's slow and clumsy movements and the pale frozen texture of its body. In contrast to Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 2, series creature designer Masahiro only designed 5 of the monsters in Silent Hill 3. As such, several creature designs were more abstract and created without fully fleshed out symbolism in mind. When asked about the meaning of the numb body, Masahiro replied, "They are only creatures. Sorry." Nurse. The nurses are monsters in Silent Hill 3, encountered by Heather Mason, scattered exclusively throughout Brookhaven Hospital, though it is unknown whether they are pure manifestations or humans transfigured into monsters. Their appearance echoes Heather's memories of the nurse Lisa Garland, and their strange mouths represent Elisa Gillespie's inner torment. Wielding handguns and iron pipes, the creatures stalk Heather mercilessly as she comes through the hospital, regaining faded memories along the way. These nurses have a more human-like appearance in opposition to those of the past two installments. They lack parasitic growths on their backs like puppet nurses, and they have faces unlike bobblehead nurses. Their black hair is all uniformly cut into bob cuts. I used to have that last day of 5th grade. Thanks, Mom. And they share the bobblehead nurses' attire because they are also Brookhaven nurses. The nurses also appear to have purple eyeshadow and lipstick. Their eyes are always closed. They each have an ambiguous red square-shaped substance around their mouth, implying that they have either coughed up blood or have been feeding on a bloody carcass. This substance could be blood, paint, or makeup. The bobblehead nurses in Silent Hill 2 also have red squares over their mouths, which may be a homage. They made heavy panting noises, and when injured, actual screams. They're hunched over with bad posture, sounds like me, while making twitching spasms and limp towards Heather. They can also be surprisingly fast. According to Lost Memories Silent Hill Chronicle, the nurses in Silent Hill 3 may have been human nurses in Brookhaven Hospital that were transformed into monsters, similar to the puppet nurses of the original game, but the details are unclear. Design-wise, creature designer Masahiro designs the nurses an amalgamation of the puppet nurse and bubblehead nurse, but stated that Silent Hill 3 features a different nurse because it has a separate protagonist from the previous games. He clarified that the design does not have a special meaning, but it is influenced by Heather's subconscious memories of Lisa Garland. The third game's intense, chaotic otherworld is reflective of Heather's state of mind, as well as Elisa's consciousness. The red squares on the nurse's mouths are tied to the other world's fleshy mouth squares. Mouth represents the shrieking insanity from Elisa's inner turmoil, having suffered at the hands of bullies and the abuse from her mother. The red squares on the nurses' faces symbolize inner madness. In Silent Hill 2, the motif of mouths was also used to convey Mary Shepard Sunderland's own shrieking insanity, with the bobblehead nurses possessing a floating red square in front of their faces tied to the 9 red squares. Pendulum. Pendulums are large hovering monsters from Silent Hill 3. They are first encountered in Central Square Shopping Center and can be found throughout Lakeside Amusement Park and the chapel. In addition to their game appearance, pendulums are also featured in the Painted Black comic book. The pendulum has the appearance of 2 human torsos cut in half and connected at their hips by a metal circular device. Its arms are tied and bandaged behind their backs, with each torso facing the opposite direction of the other, and a pair of steel-like bladed legs sprout from the center of the mechanical device. It also has a blade attached to each of its heads and rotates its torso like a pendulum swinging in a single direction. While it moves as an attempt to cut Heather Mason, it makes a loud screeching sound similar to that of a rusty metal grinding, a noise which alters to a sound similar to a broken instrument when harmed and grounded. According to Lost Memories Silent Hill Chronicle, the name pendulum is derived from the creature's method of attack and the way it rotates its body. In contrast to Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2 series creature designer Masahiro only designed, like we said, 5 of the monsters from Silent Hill 3. As such, several creature designs were more abstract and created without fully fleshed out symbolism in mind. When asked about the meaning of the pendulum, Masahiro stated, "Some creatures from Silent Hill 3 have no special meaning. This is the same." Scraper. Scrapers are enemies who appear in Silent Hill 3. They are often encountered in the Order's chapel very late into the game, and are seen wandering the halls. They are very similar in appearance and nature to the missionary, though they are much weaker, as well as less threatening and significantly smaller. They appear as medium-sized humanoid males with dirty brown robes that resemble a butcher's smock and brown sacks over their faces. They also wear bloody rubber gloves and corduroy pants. Their tongues feel like weapons and in blades, which they constantly scrape together, hence their name. The Scrapers may be actual members of the Order or manifestations of Claudia Wolf's vision of the Order's members. The Book of Lost Memories only refers to them as humanoid monsters. They received their name from their habit of scraping their blades together. It is also very likely that the Scraper is meant to be a frequent reminder of the missionary. They only appear later in the game, and it is clear that Heather's fury regarding her father's murder fails to wane, even resulting in her breaking down and sobbing once God is defeated. When Heather encounters the facsimile of her father's bedroom and leaves, Scrapers are seen in the hallway outside, possibly reminding her of how her father has died. Heather also mentions in the game that since her father is no longer around to do it, she must be who prevails in this massive tribulation. As the player gets closer to the climax, the population of scrapers increase, supporting this possibility. Also, as previously stated, they appear to be a miniature version of the missionary, and therefore seeing a beast so synonymous would inevitably remind Heather of her father's murderer. It may also be that the missionary was a type of scraper, however, this is not stated anywhere in the game. There is a running theme of maternity and femininity in Silent Hill 3 and its monsters due to the central conflict of the game centering on impregnation and the cult attempts to force Heather to birth their god. The combination of the missionary's title, his clothing, and his weapons may be seen as a sign of dilation and curettage, which is the dilation of a cervix and surgical extraction of part of the lining of the uterus and or contents of the uterus by curettage, scraping, and scooping. It is an often used method of first trimester miscarriage or abortion. The scraper here might refer to scraping out the unborn fetus. Rubber gloves, a mask, and a smock could be reminiscent of surgical attire, the long, sharp weapons being exaggerated imagery of abortion instruments. Slurper. Slurpers are crawling humanoid monsters in Silent Hill 3. They appear to be men wearing masks and what appear to be leather shorts. Their figure itself is notable by its long tube-like snouts, much like an anteater's, which have a mouth with teeth and lips. They have a long tongue with which they use to slurp up carrion and blood. Slurpers have club-like front limbs. They emit extremely loud, raw, monstrous screeching sounds of various pitches. After Heather enters the other world within Brookhaven, Slurpers appear bloodier than usual. Lost Memory Silent Hill Chronicle only mentions that they are named for their habit of slurping up the rusty-colored blood and bits of flesh that stick to the floor with its pointed bill, so any intended symbolism is left to speculation. Considering their resemblance to well-built human males wearing only shorts or underwear, their habit of surprise attacks, and the way they shove Heather to the floor and climb on top of her, their symbolism could be sexual in nature, representing Heather's possible fear of R-words and stalkers. Heather wears a mini skirt, adding to her vulnerability and the possible sexual theming when a slipper knocks her down and climbs on top of her. The slipper's head, with its elongated mouth, could be interpreted as being able to reach into her skirt, as well as bearing oral intercourse and phallic overtones. They have a tendency to grab Heather's leg and tilt her head up, as if trying to sneak a peek under her skirt. There is a running theme of maternity and femininity in Silent Hill 3 and its monsters due to the central conflict of the game centering on impregnation and the cult's attempts to force Heather to birth their god. The slipper may adhere to this theme by representing the suction-aspire method of extracting a miscarried or aborted fetus. The creature's name and snout allude to this, as well as its passive actions in sucking up bodily fluids. The way it knocks Heather on her back when it attacks may be a reference to a woman on her back about to be given suction aspiration treatment. The subject of miscarriage can be tied up to fears of problematic pregnancies. Another possible interpretation is that the slippers represent children. Being only 17, presumably single and living in hiding, Heather is not prepared to become a teenage mother. It is confirmed that Heather works as a part-time babysitter and may already deal with unruly children, so the slipper may symbolize Heather's anxiety and stress regarding becoming a young mother. The way they grab Heather and refuse to let go could be seen as a child that does not want to separate themselves from their mothers or from their parents. It is common for children to grab their parents when they are uncomfortable or unfamiliar with their environment, and Heather is already feeling overwhelmed by the other world. Not long after Heather encounters the slipper, she complains she feels like she is going crazy. The monster can be seen as a juxtaposition of child and adult attributes. For example, they are childlike in that they crawl on the floor like infants, are unable to dress themselves properly by wearing a shirt, and have lumps for arms as if to echo a helpless child. This contrasts the adult musculature and figure of the enemy, meaning the monster could symbolize Heather's concerns if she would be able to properly raise a child. As Heather was once a Lisa Gillespie, the slippers may have been seen as a parallel to the romper. Both have somewhat similar two-syllable names ending in "er", and they have masculine enemies who knock their prey to the ground and try to climb on top of them. Splitworm. Splitworm is a giant monster which attacks Heather Mason at Central Square Shopping Center in the first boss encountered in Silent Hill 3. It is battled in the other world, Toluca Lake, at the gallows of Toluca Prison in Silent Hill the arcade. The split worm is a gigantic vile worm that is covered in protective lavender-colored outer layer. This thick skin splits vertically to reveal a fleshy head without any visible eyes or nostrils. It has a massive set of jaws with gigantic teeth, which are its primary attack method. In terms of shape and arrangement, its teeth greatly resemble those of a human adult rather than an animal. It has many strands of gooey flesh connecting its head to the protective layer of skin. While it is massive in size, it is not as long as the word worm would suggest. The split worm is patterned after the split head creature that appears in the first game. It is also the first boss of the game, further mirroring the split head. The Night Flutter and Wormhead also had worm imagery, and it may reflect at least a Gillespie's fear of worms. The boss may also seem to resemble a phallic instrument, what males give out for women to be pregnant, which is reinforced by the various cavities that the split worm enters and exits through the battle. Something that could be an allusion to sexual intercourse. The teeth in split worm's mouth may also contribute to this idea and could possibly reference the myth of female genitalia dentata. This could point to Heather's possible reservations or fear of sexualness in general. Yet one more possible understanding of the split worm symbolism can relate to a visceral depiction of both pregnancy and childbirth, the recurring theme of the game. The split worm itself bears physical traits agreeable to the situation of maternity and a child's emergence. It might be defined as Heather giving birth to God in a more vulgar aspect, with the worm's split intruders symbolizing a woman's genitalia aperture and the worm's face resembling the fetus or god. The outer protective shell of the split worm can astrally represent the safety of being cradled within a mother's uterus, as it is completely unharmed by any of Heather's attacks and aims toward its exterior. The skin around the head opening up to reveal another form hiding within could also point to this interpretation. Furthermore, the moonstone door leading to the split worm contains a poem that is a clear reference to childbirth, and the moonstone itself may symbolize a female ovum or egg. As for the arcade, it may represent the less desirable effects of Hana's death, as worms are classified as decomposers. The God. The God, also simply called God, is the final boss of Silent Hill 3 encountered at the end of the chapel. She is the result of a partly failed ritual to resurrect the deity of the town's religion. God appears as a huge half-skeletal being whose face resembles a cracked porcelain mask with the likeness of Lisa Gillespie, Heather's previous incarnation and Claudia's childhood friend. This is likely because the manifestation of God, as previously established in the first Silent Hill, takes on the appearance of what the host or ritual performer perceives God to look like. She possesses Elisa's dark, disheveled hair. Due to God's unnatural and hasty birth, as well as the hate and anger in Heather's heart, she is twisted and malformed, with her legs lacking flesh and ending at the knees. Her spine and pelvis are visible, much as a baby which has just been born. God seems to possess no intelligence, like lacking consciousness, sentience, and self-awareness. God does not speak in human language like most monsters, but rather roars like a beast, and her eyes are always closed, implying that she is blind or asleep. She resembles both Incubus and Incubator, the incarnations of God seen in the end of the first game. Prior to battling God, Heather jumps down a vertical aperture, which might resemble a ruptured female genitalia introitus, perhaps one that recently had an episiotomy. This suggests an especially violent and traumatic birth, while the room in which God rests could be seen as the uterus. This may be a metaphor of Heather entering the womb and defeating God before she has the chance and opportunity to be truly born into the world. Earlier in the chapel, painting is seen of God's followers with a similar looking cavity in the floor and the caption, "So God hasn't been lost. We must offer our prayers and not forget our faith. We wait and hope for the day when the path to paradise will be open." Directly above the hole leading to God is a painting of paradise. God is found deep underground, which could be symbolic that God, or at least the orders God, is linked closer to mankind, hell, or earth than some place celestial such as the sky, heaven, or cosmos. Heather's battle against God could be seen as a representation of her overcoming her dark past as Elisa and the desire to purge the influence of the order from the world. It is ambiguous if she is truly a divine being that will bring paradise or merely another monster manifested by the powers of Silent Hill. Unidentified monster. A creature with slithering appendages dwells in the sewers of Silent Hill 3. The creature is largely unseen, submerged in water, with the exception of slithering appendage that emerges and is used to grasp objects. It's unknown what the monster actually is. It's possible that Heather, after reading notes about a creature dwelling in the sewers, actually developed the image of it herself. What the workers actually saw could have been an alligator or some other creature. This may not be the case, as the scenario still triggers even if Heather does not read the note. At the same time, it could symbolize Heather's fear of the unknown. It may also symbolize Heather's and Elisa's hatred of insects and snakes. Another theory is the sewer monster is a reference to the bloodsucker from Silent Hill, as they are both worm-like in nature, have a similar meaning, and can kill the player if they try to advance without killing or incapacitating the monster beforehand. Both are also invulnerable enemies in the series. There is a running theme of maternity and femininity in Silent Hill 3 and its monsters due to the central conflict of the game centering on impregnation and the cult attempts to force Heather to birth their god. The sewer monster could be seen to resemble a severed umbilical cord. Valtiel. Valtiel is a monster in Silent Hill 3 and Silent Hill Revelation, as well as a governing angel in the Order of Silent Hill, despite his demonic appearance in Silent Hill 3. His name means attendant, by way of the French word valet. His existence as an angel is derived from the suffixing "el", thus he is attendant of God, a title attributed to theological angels. Valtios appeared in different forms prior to Silent Hill 3. The ceremonial robes worn by the figures in the Otherworld Elementary School that appeared in Silent Hill were a homage to Valtiel, while Pyramid Head himself was a being or form connected to Valtiel's existence. Pyramid Head is connected to Valtiel as both of them are described as taking different forms depending on the viewer. A further connection is that Pyramid Head is stated to be the shape of Valtiel's reason for existence. The Butcher also resembles Valtiel, though possessing a much more violent and bloodthirsty nature. It is unknown whether the two are related beyond superficial similarity. Valtiel is humanoid in appearance, but his head vibrates and twitches rapidly, obscuring his facial features, although there are not many features to behold, as his face is blank and leathery with a series of crude stitches where his mouth should be. His head has a lip-like object on its back, like Glutton or Closer has, and an ear on the left side of the head. It is garbed in ceremonial robes resembling a butcher's apron and wears gloves. His hands and parts of his body are smudged in what appears to be blood. Valtiel has the seal of Metatron on both of his shoulders. Metatron and Valtiel are both considered the agents of God, and this mark could suggest that Valtiel is in Metatron's servitude or that he himself is actually Metatron. Unlike most monsters in the series, Valtiel doesn't appear to be a manifestation of any person's emotions or subconscious. It is possible he is a unique being that exists in the other world, whose existence is independent of humans directly serving God. As God's attendant, Valtio observes Heather in order to ensue the birth of God. His garb, consisting of a mask, smock, and gloves, and is reminiscent of surgical wear, symbolizing his role as a midwife, where he helps to deliver the reborn God. This is a rather emergent theme in Silent Hill 3, which focuses around maternity, as seen in Heather being a mother of God. Although he makes no appearance outside of Silent Hill 3, the presence of the other world and the rest of the series suggests Valtio is there, watching over the safety of the Holy Mother. Valtio could be identified with either Lobsel Vith or, I don't know how to say it, so I'm going to put it on screen, the Yellow Angel and Red Angel, respectively, mentioned in Myth 4 Creation. Both having been created to assist God in keeping humanity obedient to her, both are tasked with a rather important duty. Given Valtiel's distinction as being the closest to God, he could be synonymous with either one. In the same myth, there is a being similar to Valtiel, if not Valtiel himself, in the bottom left of the painting. This, coupled with the fact that Valtiel and Pyramid Head have yellow and red color heads respectively, could be further proof of a connection to the yellow and red gods. However, Masahiro verified that Pyramid Head and the same name have no connections. In Silent Hill 3, the connection to the first game is quite clear, but the point of contact with the second game isn't so obvious. I created Valtiel because I wanted to relate the warmth of the series through a creature. In the religion of Silent Hill, Valtiel exists as one who is close to God, and Pyramid Head takes the shape of Valtiel's reason for existence. That is to say, the Pyramid Head character was born from the townspeople's idolatrous ideologies. In the first game, the ceremonial robes were in homage to Valtiel, Masahiro.